In this problem, we're asked to go ahead and solve for the value m, the value of m that would work here. And there might be more than one. So what we're going to do when we solve something with a radical in it, square root in this case, is we're going to go ahead and we're going to isolate that square root. In other words, we're going to get it by itself. So this is going to become the square root of m plus 57 is equal to m plus 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. Now we have to be careful when we square both sides. Okay, so the next step, so first step, get your square root by itself. Second step, square both sides. When you square both sides, you can end up with extra solutions. You can end up with solutions that didn't actually work. For example, if I told you that I had a number and it was equal to 2, well, there's only one value you can plug in here that's equal to 2, and that's 2. But now if I square both sides, now the answer to this, there's two answers there. One is 2, the other one is negative 2. So by squaring, I've created this negative 2 as a possibility, even though it wasn't in the original. And so you end up with an extra solution. So what we have to do is if we square both sides, okay, if we do the squaring, then we have to check our solutions for sure to see if any of them are extra. Okay, so square both sides. So this becomes m plus 57. Now we're squaring and not taking the square root, so we're not going to put plus or minus. It's only when you do the square root. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and I am going to multiply this out, or I'm going to FOIL this side. So first times first is going to be m squared. Then this first times this last one over here, so our outer terms is going to be plus m. Our inner terms is going to give me another plus 1m. And then 1 times 1 gives me just 1. Okay. So we've got m squared plus 2m plus 1 is equal to m plus 57. Now I'm going to move everything over onto one side because I'm solving a quadratic, so again it's got to be equal to 0. So I'm going to go 0 is equal to m squared. Subtract m from both sides. That's just going to give me 1m. And then subtract 57. And that'll give me a negative 56. Okay. So again, if we can solve by factoring, that's probably the fastest way to do this. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. So again, I'm looking for two things that multiply to be negative 56, but are going to add to be just 1. Well, we could start out at the ends. We could start at like 1 and 56, but those are going to be pretty far apart to add to 1. So what I really want are numbers that are close to one another. Okay, so we're going to have a plus and a minus again, because we've got the negative. And here, let's see. Well, it looks like things that multiply together to give you 56 would be a 7 and an 8. Okay, so which one would I want where? Well, I'd probably want the 8 to be positive and the 7 to be negative. So that adds to give me just 1. So if I go 8 and I go 7, then I'm going to have my 56. Okay, so now again, you can set each of these equal to 0 to solve. So we're going to get m is equal to negative 8, or m is equal to positive 7. Now, it's very tempting just to write those down as solutions and move on, but because of this step right here, because we went ahead and we squared, we're going to have to go ahead and check those answers just to make sure that they both work. So okay, so we must check because we squared. So let's go ahead and let's plug in. We'll do the -8 first. So that's going to be the square root of -8 plus 57 minus 1 should be equal to -8. You can already see that that's going to be a problem. How do I know that? Well, I'm going to have, if I move the 1 over, if I move the 1 over to the other side, if I add 1 to both sides, I get this. That's an issue. Think about that. I have to take the square root of a number. Well, this is going to, for sure, at the worst case, it's going to be 0. Otherwise, it's going to be positive. Because in this particular case, we're not working with imaginary numbers. Even if we were, it wouldn't matter. This right here is going to give me a positive value out, but it's equal to a negative. Okay, so that already means we're in bad shape. So it's not going to work. If we go ahead and we work this out, we're going to get the square root of 49 is equal to -7. Now we know that the square root gives us a positive value because that's how we're defining the square root function. So square root of 49 is going to give me a positive 7. And that right there happened because of that squaring issue. So these two are not equal to each other, but if you square them, they are. And so we accidentally ended up with that extra solution. So we know, coming back up here, that -8 can't work. Well, let's try 7. So we'd have the square root of 7 plus 57 minus 1 would have to be equal to 7. Where am I getting this? Again, I'm going back to the original problem and I'm plugging in 7 here and 7 here. Okay, so now the square root of the square root of 7 plus 57, well, 7 plus 57 is 64. So square root of 64 minus 1, we want to see, is it equal to 7? I guess I could put a little question marks here because really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to determine, are they equal? I could have done that up here as well. Okay. So as I go down here, square root of 64 is 8. And sure enough, 8 minus 1 is 7. Okay, so that one checks. So when we answer this question, our solution is just the number 7. So again, we're not going to include that -8. Okay, and that's how you go ahead and you work that problem.